Welcome to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to look at a game which was played yesterday between Carlsen and Liem in the FIDE Online Steinitz Memorial. Carlsen with the white pieces and he played e4. Black responded with e5, knight f3, knight c6. And Carlsen chose to play knight c3 here, knight f6, and he went for an interesting sideline, with only 63 games played in this opening. h3. The point is that this bishop should never get out to this square where it could make an annoying pin. So Carlsen played h3 here, and black continued to play with bishop b4, and Carlsen responded. The threat obviously is to take on c3 and then to take on e4. Then black just wins the pawn. So Carlsen replied with knight d5, attacking this bishop, and black played bishop c5. And now Carlsen went for an interesting move, c3. You might think that this pawn is hanging, can just be taken by the knight, but in fact black can take, but it leads to very sharp play. Let's look at that line. So after knight takes e4, the idea is to play d4, very important move. That's the idea. So after e takes d4, another very important move, bishop to d3. This is an intermediate move which now black has to retreat to f6, and now comes the whole point. The point is to play queen to e2 here. So check, and the best move for black in this position is king f8, because after a move like bishop e7, white can simply play knight takes f6, and because this bishop is pinned by this queen, he has to take with this pawn. And now just look at this pawn structure and this weak king, because it can never castle, because then this file would be over. So this gives a pretty good position for white, even though he is a pawn down. So it's a valuable pawn sacrifice. So king f8 would be the best move. And this leads to compensation for white, because still this king isn't really safe here. Because this rook is passive, this rook is passive, this bishop needs some time to get out, and it can't reach the square because of this pawn. So white has pretty much compensation, because he can just castle, and every piece knows where it should belong. This bishop should get to g. Okay, you cannot play that directly. Oh, okay, you can. And so it's very clear. White king can castle, the rook can come to e1. So it's very clear what's going to happen. So black didn't take. He castled, and then the game continued with b4, gaining some space in the queen side. And now Carlsen decides to damage the pawn structure, and the game just continued with d3, d5, and queen c2, h6, preventing bishop to g5, bishop e2, b5, castles, bishop e6, bishop e3, and queen d7, rook fd1, rook fd8, and now Carlsen played a very interesting move, a4. After b takes a4, Carlsen played the brilliant move b5. And now Quang actually made a mistake with knight e7. Can you spot it? What's the best move for white? Just pause the video if you want to think a bit. Carlsen didn't find it. Yeah, the correct move obviously is c4. Point being that this line is pretty weak. So after d takes e4, queen e8, and rook takes d8, knight takes e5. White is a pawn down, but this pawn is very weak, and in long term these two pieces are passive, and even this knight is being like kind of cut off of the game because of okay, not this move. Here cannot go here, cannot go here. If he goes here, then this knight comes and takes it. So like three pieces are passive and a pawn is pretty weak. So this is actually pretty good for Carlsen. And yeah, so what to do here? But Carlsen, after b5 and knight e7, he played a move which is good. He just took on a4. He didn't find the correct move to get the initiative. After queen takes b5, rook b4, queen a6, and knight takes e5, d takes e4, d takes e4, rook takes d1 check, queen takes d1, queen a1. And now you don't really want to exchange the queen because then this rook gets pretty active. Take back with the rook and it gets pretty active, so you don't want that. So Carlsen decided to play rook b1, queen a3, queen to d5, protecting this pawn, b6, and f3. After queen a2, queen d1, queen a5, and now queen d4 back, queen a2, and now Carlsen could have gone queen d1 and then it would be a 3-4 repetition, but obviously the world champion doesn't want that and he played queen d3, playing for a win, and that's pretty understandable because his pieces are still more active than black's. So after knight to d7, knight takes d7, bishop takes d7, he went bishop f1, bishop e6, rook d1, knight to g6, and f4, threatening f5, winning a piece. After bishop b3, he played rook to d2, queen a1, and king h2. After queen e1, this seems like black has coordinated all his pieces and white is somehow in trouble because this bishop on f1 is pretty passive, this rook is a bit passive, and like it seems like white is not coordinating. In fact, black is. So Carlsen played bishop to f2, and after queen c1 and bishop g3, there was this move bishop c4, attacking the queen, and the queen has to guard the rook because the rook is being attacked by the queen. So he decided to sacrifice an exchange with queen takes c4. Obviously this is a very critical moment. If black would be in a computer, the computer would easily win this position. But in human chances, queen takes c4 gives very good human chances, because now you see that this pawn is weak. So after queen takes d2, you can take that pawn. Queen d8, queen b7, rook b8, queen a6, rook a8, queen b5. White has coordinated, and you can argue that these two bishops, or one of those bishops, can dominate this rook. So Carlsen obviously thought he has compensation. And after rook c8, f5, knight e7, and bishop c4, he is trying to create another weakness, f7. So queen e8, he doesn't want to exchange the queens, so he played queen b3, and knight c6, he played bishop to d5. And after knight e5, he can finally take that pawn. And now the material is even, because Carlsen is 2 pawns up, and 2 pawns and an exchange is equal. So king to h8, queen to d4, centralizing the queen, f6, and c4. Now you see that this pawn is pretty strong, because it is very hard to stop him running. It's not that easy for black. So after queen e7, Carlsen decided to take on e5. And now Liem made another mistake. He took with the pawn. Obviously, he thought that endgame would be lost, but in fact it isn't, because after queen takes, exchange of the queens, a move like king g3 is a draw because of rook c5. White can't improve his position because his king can't get to g3, g6, but black's king is also not able to get to d6. So this is actually a draw because no side can improve his position. But Liem missed, I think, this move rook to c8, very crucial move, and obviously he took with the pawn. Yeah, he took with the pawn, which is a mistake because after queen takes queen e3, queen g5, and now he is giving letting white to an endgame. But you see here, this is a much better endgame for white than we saw before, because there are 3 weak pawns, and white's pawns are, I'm making green, are all protected by this bishop. No, this bishop protects this one, and this pawn protects this one. So all pawns are on live square, so the bishop can protect them, and rook can't take them, something like that. So king g3, king h7, and Carlsen, like after king g4, king h6, Carlsen made a mistake with h4. Carlsen could have won with f6 because of g takes s, king f5, and king to g7. He can get into black's territory. Like it can go on like this. G4, king g7, king d7, rook c5, king d6, rook c8, and c5, rook d8 check, king e6, rook e8 check, king d7. There is no check, and white's c-pawn just simply queens. It's very hard to stop it because this rook has no checks. This bishop is completely dominating this rook. This is winning for white. But Carlsen played h4, which is a mistake. So after takes, this is a draw. But now Liem makes a real big mistake. In fact, it's a blunder. Play g5 check. Because now is king g4, rook c7, and f6. As you see, this king can now get into the territory. So after king g6, f7, king rook c8, c5, king f6, c6, king g6, bishop e6, controlling the queening square and protecting this pawn. Rook can't take this pawn because then it queens. So rook h8, and you see how hard it is for black to stop. And this king can't get in because then this pawn would get lost. And then when this pawn get lost, then white can just go like this, and then he can get to here, and then he can take the pawn on e5, and that would be completely lost position. So after c7, king f6, cd queen, white already won the rook, and as you see, black has to take on f7, and then white has to take on g5. And you see this pawn will be captured because this king cannot get here because of this bishop controlling that square. So obviously at this position Liem resigned the game, and obviously a magnificent win, and it was all about that positional sacrifice which just blew black off. I think this was somewhat yeah, and that was just a very nice game by Carlsen, and it shows that how strong Carlsen is. He could predict that positional sacrifice um, is just winning, and that's obviously the class of Carlsen, and he is obviously one of the greatest players ever seen. Yeah, and here's the position where he went for the exchange sacrifice with queen takes c4. Very good move, and yeah, as I already said, a computer would probably hold or win this with black, but a human, even if it's a super GM like Liem, it's not able to hold us. And this was a blitz game, so it's much harder in the classical. Even in the classical, I don't think that Liem would have had an easy game after this exchange sacrifice. So see you later in the next video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share, link and subscribe my YouTube channel. Bye.